Out here in the garden today, I'm gonna lower and lean my first tomato bed over here. I've already tied up using the clips up to the tallest point here, so they're secure. And I've pruned the lowest part, but I haven't pruned any of the suckers in the middle yet until I actually do the moves. That way, if for some reason I snap one of the tops, I have a secondary sucker that I can then make the main line. So there's one that's really short here, this guy, but all the rest are pretty much at or about to be at the spools. So that's going to actually determine which way I go for where I'm moving them. So this short guy is going to get the hook, the spool lowered, one rotation or so, maybe two, and then this is going to go onto that zip tie over here, and then it's going to keep rotating all the way around. So this plant will get lowered, and then we'll lean over and get hung up to here. This one will go over, lean over up to here, and then this one actually goes to the back here. So it's just going to make a circle there. All right, to lower, you're going to grab the spool and the string with one hand, pinch this to lower it out. That's one. That's two. So now it's hanging. So now I'll be able to move this plant over to the other side. So now I'm going to move this little stopper back and take it off of the zip tie. And it's very heavy, so I'm going to have two hands. And I'm going to start rotating this plant. So you can see here. So now I need to hook this to that PVC and see if I need to let any more line out. So I just finished moving this tomato from the back now to the front. I've temporarily laid the small tomato down really gently so that I had an open space. I think next time I will add an extra zip tie so that I will always have 7 zip ties for 6 tomatoes, so that rotating makes it a little easier. You can see here, this tomato here comes down and is rooted back here. And so now the tomato that's rooted there, I'm going to move over to this zip tie, and it will get lowered and leaned back up. And then I'll keep growing up, and then we'll do it again and again. Okay, so this looks really funny. It looks like I don't have good tomato plants anymore until you get up close and you see all the vines that are starting to make a wreath, the bottom, and all the tomatoes. So the trick is to not let the tomatoes actually touch the ground. So there's one that's really close, but there's like, you could put a piece of paper between. I'll probably try to adjust that slightly with the angles of the hooks, or even, you know, digging down a little bit on the dirt so it's not going to be touching. But they're all pruned now. I've pruned off the suckers. I've pruned off the lower leaves. They're really healthy looking vines, which is probably the most important part. But I just think it's so cool that you can see the vines. So when you're watering over here, you're actually watering the plant that's over here. So it's just kind of neat to see it all kind of actually work. So if you're like many, this is the time of year where your tomatoes have overgrown your stakes, or they've overgrown your Florida weave posts that you have set up, and they're starting to topple back over. Whereas now I have, you know, as much, I think it's like, what, 40 feet on each spool or so that I could keep going. So not that they'll get there before frost, but there's room for them to keep going and keep going and keep going, and just keep rotating them into the circle. It's a method that's used a lot in greenhouses. Also, it's less likely to get blight by doing this much pruning. So there's lots of benefits here. And we just made this PVC trellis and used zip ties. I will definitely change out the zip ties for next year. I want to get something that's going to actually hold up to the UV. We'll probably switch those out here in another week or two to fresh zip ties. That is a concern. But overall, this is definitely working.